Let's talk about Ethereum today, and if you look back at the past several weeks and months on the charts, you'll see that Ethereum has been making tremendous ground on the BTC ratio. We're now kind of comfortably back into the 0.1 territory, which is exciting, and it's got an awful lot of people talking about the possibility of some kind of flippening again, a debate which hasn't seriously been brought back since the great heights that we saw in the summer of 2017, when I think Ethereum reached a high of about 0.15 on the ratio, so around about 83% of the way towards some kind of flippening before everything failed. As for whether or not a flippening is a distinct possibility in my eyes in the next few weeks and months is not really what I want this video to be about, but I have to say that just in terms of fundamentals, I think things look as good for Ether as they've ever been. And what's really interesting is I follow a lot of these traders, and they appear to suggest that whatever information their charts are showing them is that it looks like we actually could be in store for some kind of flippening over the next few months. And there's one person in particular who I pay quite a lot of attention towards, and his name is Peter Brand. He's a kind of well-known prominent trader who's on Twitter a lot. He's been trading traditional markets for decades now. He makes really fantastic calls on cryptocurrency market as well. And he recently tweeted, and I'll maybe feature it somewhere on the screen right now, he recently tweeted that he thinks over the next few months the Ethereum ratio to Bitcoin could reach a high of 0.29, which is way past the 0.177, I believe, that would actually be required for a flippening in terms of the total market cap for Ethereum. And if you actually look down at one of the responses to someone else that he put, he actually described it as a flippening on steroids as well. And so that's incredibly exciting for someone as kind of well respected as him to actually be calling that out and to say something as dramatic as a flippening on steroids. I think it means that many of us, whether you are Bitcoin maximalist or pro-Ethereum, anti-Ethereum, whatever, just judging by the evidence, we seriously have to consider this to be a distinct possibility. And so bearing that all in mind, I've decided that I want to kind of right now, way in advance before emotions and everything get crazy, I want to lay out what my kind of action plan would be in the event of some kind of imminent Ethereum flippening occurring over the next few months. And the kind of conclusion that I've come to right now, and this might change, who knows, but this is pretty much firmly where I want to be, what I want to do, is in the event of some kind of flippening occurring, depending on just how the ratio goes, whether it goes towards 0.29, I've actually decided already, and this might seem a bit of a shock to you, to actually sell a portion of my Ethereum at that time to put that into Bitcoin. Maybe something around 10-15%, I'm thinking. The reason that I personally would do that, and again, not financial advice, you do whatever you want with your money, but the reason I'm going to do that with mine is because, first of all, my portfolio has been Ether dominant for a very long time now, and I've been completely open and honest about my desire to kind of balance that somewhat. It makes tremendous sense to do that when the ratio is so favorable for me to do so. So there's that reason, which is pretty straightforward. But the second one, and perhaps the main one as well, is I've learned my lesson from what occurred last year. If many of you are very new to the crypto space, maybe you got in this year or in December, November, something like that, you wouldn't have been around during the summer of 2017, where again, Ethereum ratio did tremendously well against Bitcoin. As I mentioned earlier, the ratio was something like 0.15, so 83% of the way there. And I was pretty much expecting a flippening to occur at that point. Many other people were as well, only for that ratio to be absolutely destroyed over the coming months as Ethereum corrected and Bitcoin gained tremendous ground. And if you look towards the very end of November, start of December, the Ethereum ratio to Bitcoin was absolutely crushed. And I think all you can do in life is at least learn the lessons that you handed previously to kind of not make the same mistake twice. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And so in light of that as well, I think just as we saw with the rise of Ripple over the past few months, people worried about that was going to become the #1 coin. That failed. I expect something similar to happen again if this were to occur with Ether over the coming months. I think there's every chance that temporarily it could take the #1 spot, and we're hanging there for a little while, resting and relying on the kind of hype and FOMO that it would generate just from that news alone. But I don't think Ethereum's at a point yet where it could actually solidify itself as the #1 top dog for all of eternity right now. I think sooner or later that FOMO, that hype would run out, and at that point Ethereum will be headed for some kind of major correction, which is always what happens and it's always completely natural. And then I think Bitcoin would once again go back to being the top dog for a little while until we get to the point that maybe is, I don't know, in my eyes, maybe about a year away from now, once we have all of the full scaling solutions in place for Ethereum, once we get Raiden, Plasma, Casper, sharding, all that stuff, And once we get many of these ICOs companies actually building apps that are successful and kind of killer apps on the Ethereum protocol, maybe at that point we could justify solidifying itself as the #1 cryptocurrency in the space. But until then, I think Bitcoin will retain the mantle. And so in the event of Ethereum temporarily taking over Bitcoin based on hype and other things as well, I would like to shift some of my money into Bitcoin, which is always a nice place to have your money anyway in cryptocurrencies. It doesn't make sense to be so dominant in just one coin. I'd feel very, very comfortable, very, very secure, just putting, again, a portion of 10, maybe 15% of my Ethereum into Bitcoin. And then if Ethereum just carries on rocketing, that's still great. I still have most of my money in Ethereum. But if it does correct quite severely, and if once again we saw a replication of what occurred in 2017, where for the latter half of the year, Bitcoin dominates and all the altcoins, including Ethereum, suffer, then I'll have made great ground by actually just putting that money from Ethereum into Bitcoin. I can keep profiting, keep making gains in that sense. And so that's pretty much where I am right now in terms of a potential flippening occurring. What I would do if that were to occur in, the next few months now. Again, if we're having this discussion a year from now with all these scaling solutions in place, then yeah, I'd feel completely comfortable just keeping everything in Ethereum because I feel like it would have genuinely earned that top spot. But right now things are still a little bit too immature, still a lot of building and development required to occur for Ethereum to thrive and to prosper. Until then, I'd feel much more comfortable just balancing my personal portfolio, which is very ETH dominant somewhat, putting that into Bitcoin and seeing whether or not it can actually keep up that performance, keep that pressure on Bitcoin throughout the rest of the year rather than just the summer where it typically does quite well. But so that's just where I am. I'd love to hear your opinions on this. First of all, whether you think a flippening is likely to occur at any point in 2018 or in particular in the next few months. And if that does occur, what would be your action plan? Would you sell some of that, diversify into Bitcoin? Would you just take it out, put it into another kind of altcoin or just into traditional investments? Whatever you're thinking, please let me know in the comment section down below. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and I'll be back with more videos probably tomorrow now, so thank you. Cheers. Your